Hi there, my name is Raelan, and this is a video that I have been wanting to do for a very long time, but putting off because I've been scared of this topic. I've been scared of messing it up because I know it is such an important and serious thing, but it's also too serious and too important for me to not address it because of fear. So, content warning for people watching. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how conditions like chronic fatigue syndrome or ME/CFS and similar chronic health conditions can sometimes have severe secondary depression that comes along with it, resulting in thoughts of self-harm and even thoughts of taking your own life, because we are losing far too many people to conditions like this. So I thought this might be a good time for me to talk about this here. Okay, so for the first thing, why me? Why am I talking about this? For any of you that have seen some of my videos, I probably don't have to explain this, but I had my own history with ME/CFS. I lived with this condition for about 10 years before finally fully recovering. And during those about 10 years, I had 3 distinct separate moments where I was feeling deeply hopeless and depressed. And it's not that I wanted to die, but I didn't feel like I could keep up with the suffering. It was just a marathon that was exhausting, and I just felt like I needed it to end. So at 3 distinct points, I remember clearly in my journey where I started thinking about taking my own life. Thankfully I didn't. I had so much greatness waiting for me, but that is my personal experience with this. And then I also, some of you might know, my mother had chronic fatigue syndrome for decades, and she just got worse and worse. This was at a time when there was very little to no resources for people facing conditions like this, and eventually things did get so bad that she did end up taking her own life when she was 56 years old. And then I by profession in the past, I worked as a social worker, and I hold a master's degree in social work, and part of that professional work was working at a suicide intervention organization. So I did things like facilitate suicide bereavement groups. I did suicide crisis intervention work. I did one-on-one follow-up support work with people who were feeling severe depression and hopelessness. So I have quite a history personally and professionally dealing with this subject matter. So there's absolutely no excuse for me not to dive into it and address it here. All right, so moving into the second part of this, why people facing conditions like ME/CFS are at a higher risk for self-harm. Now, this might seem a little bit obvious to you if you are facing this or someone you know is, but it's quite a complex situation, and there's a lot of different factors that lead into us experiencing this severe secondary depression that can come along with it. Some of those things, I had to make a list because it's quite a lot of things that can lead to people feeling this way, but are things like poor quality of life, hopelessness for finding relief from the suffering that you're in, loss of employment, a financial strain, loss of relationships. It can be social interactions with people with a lack of understanding of what you're going through. You know, there are systemic healthcare issues with the treatment of ME/CFS and similar conditions. You can also lose a bit of your sense of self, or a lot of your sense of self, and there can be a social stigma that goes along with having a health condition that is poorly understood, which can reduce your social support and increase the isolation that you're facing. So in short, what that whole list is essentially saying is that it can be hell. This illness can be nothing short of a 100% living hell. It can be a nightmare. It can be a nightmare that feels like it's never going to end, especially when you've tried many different things and doctors don't seem to know what to do to help you. You can feel stuck, and it's understandable that people start to feel worn down in this and start to feel a little bit hopeless. But let me just say right now, oh my goodness, I found different ways to get me through those moments. I cannot even imagine if I had given up in any of those times. All the things that I would have missed, I never would have believed if you would have told me all that was to come in my life when I was sick and felt trapped and couldn't work and had no money and just felt undesirable in relationships, and just like there was just really no prospects in my future. But oh my goodness, I am so glad that I found ways to get through those moments. And I'll share what worked for me and some of the things that have worked for others. But let me just say, if I had given up, oh my goodness, if I had given up in those moments, even though things felt so bleak and so hopeless and like they were never gonna change, and I could give you a zillion reasons why it was logical to believe that, because I'd been through hell and nothing was working. But I got through those moments and I got past this illness, and then I got to, get remarried. I have the world's best husband. I have the world's best father that I get to enjoy, who also just got remarried last year at the age of about 70 and is so happy. And I would have missed seeing him be that happy. I have the world's cutest puppy. I've got to travel around the world. I've lived in so many different countries. I've done crazy things. I backpacked by myself for almost a year. I became a professional scuba diver. I learned to surf. I've met so many amazing people from all over the world. I've written a book. I went back to school. I got another degree. I have this channel. I've connected with all of you. All of these have just been mind-blowing experiences. So I throw that in there for those people who might be feeling low and stuck. Just know that things can and do change, and your head might explode as well if you knew all that was waiting for you in your future. All right, so what got me through those really hard moments? For me, there are a few different things, and one of them, a big one for me, was thinking of my father. I'm an only child. It was just my mother, my father, myself. We all went through hell with my mother's illness and then lost her. And the thought of then having my dad lose his only child was just unbearable to me. So that was a really big one. So I think thoughts of others can be a big motivator, but I also think it can only take you so far, because sometimes when that pain is so intense, we lose that ability to sort of see too much farther ahead outside of our own world, which is understandable. But for me, that was one thing. Another one, and this might sound too simple, but was just distraction. So on my really, really bad days, the really challenging days, the really dark days, what I just did was do everything I could not to think about any of it. So I would binge watch some cheesy TV show or just do whatever I could to pass the day, because quite often the next day I would feel a little bit better and things would feel a little bit more manageable. And then the third thing that has helped me is finding hope. One time when I was in a really dark place and ready to give up, I got a chronic Lyme disease diagnosis, which doesn't sound probably to your average person like a source of hope, but for me it was like a winning lottery ticket. I was like, yes, people have heard of this. This sounds real. This sounds like there are treatment options. Okay, I can keep going. Just give me a path. Give me some hope that things can change. So that chronic Lyme disease diagnosis was a lifesaver for me. And there are other ways, better ways to find hope outside of getting a chronic disease diagnosis, and I'm going to talk about those in a minute. All right, now the third part of this video that I promised are some things, some strategies for you if you are currently feeling low, feeling hopeless, feeling some severe depression, and you need to get through it. So these 10 things I'm going to share come from my own experience, personally, professionally, and from a really great website called rethink.org, which I will link in the video description. So the first one, and this overlaps with my own experience, is to find hope. I personally think that hope is the biggest fuel that will get you through all of this, and there are many ways that you can keep yourself hopeful. So why is there a reason to be hopeful if you're facing a chronic health condition like this? Well, one is that so many people are recovering now. We never used to hear about this, but people are recovering every day. I currently have a wait list for full recovery stories on my channel. I cannot keep up. I wish I could. I wish I could quit my day job and just do this full time, because people are contacting me all of the time, telling me about how incredibly sick they were, and now they're fully back and they just can't wait to share their story. So there's a reason to be hopeful. Another reason is that there is so much research happening now. There didn't used to be that much. Research is happening now all over the place, and we're learning new things every single day. So there's always new information coming, and it's definitely not hopeless. Another reason to be hopeful is that there's a lot of great programs that can help you with recovery. When I first got sick, and most certainly when my mother was sick, we had virtually nothing. And now there are many great things. There's just a lot out there that's working for people. I've interviewed so many people on this channel that have unfortunately talked about, in their full recovery story, at some point in their journey or multiple points in their journey, that they felt extreme hopelessness and they felt like giving up and they had thoughts of suicide. and how glad they are that they found ways to get through it, and how they've come through the other side of this whole other person, happier, healthier, and living this dream life that they never would have thought possible. So there are definitely reasons to be hopeful. A second strategy for dealing with this is just to procrastinate, which is kind of like my distraction method, but more thinking of your ability to make this decision about your life isn't going anywhere. So just don't make it today. Put it off. Now, a third thing to help you with this is to be aware of your triggers. And triggers can be different for different people, but triggers are things that make you feel worse. This could be certain people, this could be photos, this could be certain types of music. Just be aware of what those things are, and in your most challenging times, make sure you're avoiding them. Now, part of this could be creating something that's called a wellness action plan. I'm gonna link an example of this in the video description if you wanna check it out. This is simply something that you put together on your better days to have in place for you on your more challenging days. And it can include things like describing what your good days look like and the things that you enjoy, so you remember that there are things that you enjoy in life. It could be a list of things that make you happy, because maybe on those really dark days, it's hard to think about what those things are. It's just having a whole bunch of stuff ready for you for those shit days, your shit day playbook ready to go. I laugh, it's not funny, but sometimes you gotta laugh or else you cry. And that handbook, that wellness plan, can be something that can pull you through those really challenging days and remind you of all the things that have gotten you through in the past and the things that you are looking forward to and enjoying in the future. Now, fourth thing is to, in your challenging times, stay away from drugs and alcohol. Now, depending on the severity of your condition, you might be staying away from these things already, but if you're not, drugs and alcohol impair the parts of our brain involved with decision making. They make us more reckless. They can sometimes make us feel better for a bit, but then the come down from that can bring on severe depression and anxiety. So drugs and alcohol can really exacerbate things during these times. Now, fifth thing is just to go to some place that feels safe for you. And again, this will depend on your health and what you are able to currently do. This might be your bedroom. This might be a spiritual place. This might be the library. But what is a safe place for you? Just changing your environment up a little bit can make a big difference. Sixth one, and I think this might be another one of the biggest ones, is just to talk to people. This is a lot to keep in your head, a lot to manage on your own. And to talk to other people can really help to deflate and take the power away from some of those really hard feelings. Now, this might be a friend, a counselor, a family member, a spiritual person, whatever works for you. But trying to do this all on your own, which I mostly did, I think makes things way harder than it needs to be. Now, a seventh way, and this is connected to the last way, is to, as much as you can, be around other people. When we're alone with our thoughts and isolated, that depression can amplify. And again, I know depending on your level of health, it's going to impact what you're able to do, but whatever you can do in those times to get yourself around other people is a really good thing. Number 8, distract yourself, which was one of mine as well. So watch TV, listen to music, play video games, spend time with your pet, set yourself a small goal for the day. You're gonna, depending on your level of health, will determine what a small goal is, but bake a cake, organize your sock drawer, just something to distract yourself until the day passes. A ninth thing is to, on those days, make a list about the positive things about yourself and your life. And I know this can be hard to do in those moments, but if you sit down and you really think about it, I know you can come up with a lot of things that you love about yourself and about your life, and those things will help to get you through that day. And then a 10th way is just to find ways to relax. Calm that nervous system, get ourselves into a good space, whether that be by getting into nature, doing some meditation, enjoy some of your favorite foods, look at some photos of things that make you smile, do some breathing techniques and breath work, just anything you can do to relax and just calm yourself down. Okay, now, 4th part of this video. Now, what to do if it's not you who's feeling this way, who's not feeling hopeless, but someone that you know, someone that you care about. This can be incredibly difficult because this feels like such a hard topic to talk about. I mean, look at me. I was, even with all my experience with this, was very nervous about talking about this on this channel because it's such a delicate position that people are in, and we don't want to say anything that will make it worse. But from my experience of working at a suicide prevention organization and all the training that I got around that, is that the best thing that you can do is actually address this head on. Don't dance around it. Be straightforward in your questions, and this can be very helpful for people in that it gives them permission to talk about something that society tells us is taboo. I think most people are scared, ashamed, have all these different feelings around these thoughts of hopelessness and self-harm, and they're scared to bring it up. They're scared of being judged. So if you bring it up directly, this creates a space that they're going to be so grateful for, where they can just be honest and get some of that out of their head. So the best thing that you can do if you suspect that someone in your life might be thinking about hurting themselves is to perform a sort of risk assessment. Now, I know this might sound daunting, but if you feel like you are up for this, and if you're not, that's okay. There are crisis centers and places that can help instead. But if this is a conversation that you think that you can have, the risk assessment looks a little something like this. It's going to start with just by straight out asking them the question, not dancing around it, not using euphemisms. You're not going to put ideas in their head. Just be direct. You could say something like, have things gotten so bad that you are having thoughts of taking your own life? And if the answer is no, well then that's great news. But if the answer is yes, you proceed with a sort of risk assessment that essentially boils down to seeing how much of a plan and how many details they have figured out. How much have they really thought about this? And something important with this is that anytime someone mentions thoughts of hopelessness or self-harm, sometimes people will write it off like they're looking for attention. These are things that should always be taken seriously. When people talk about things like this, it's a cry for help. They're reaching out to you. So always, always, always take it seriously. So after you've asked that question and you've opened up this beautiful space where you can now talk about this, well, they can talk about this, you're gonna say, okay, do you have a plan? And if they don't have a plan, that's good news, because that means that they are likely at a lower risk. But if they do have a plan, then that puts them a little bit higher risk, because they're a little bit closer to potentially following through with what that plan is. So from there, you're just gonna look for further details. You know, do you have a timeline for this plan? You know, when do you plan to do this? If they do have a timeline, again, a bit higher risk. And if they have a plan, do you have the means to carry out that plan? And if they do, again, that's gonna put them at higher risk. So again, at any level of risk, it should be taken seriously and it needs to be dealt with. And something can trigger someone from low risk to high risk really quickly, but this just helps give you a sense of where they are today and where to go from there. And the good news is you are not expected to be a mental health professional. You are not expected to be a crisis intervention worker. This is not your job to fix all by yourself. There's lots of help available out there. So if you've determined that this person is quite high risk, meaning that yes, they're having thoughts of hurting themselves, they do have a plan, they do have a timeline, they do have the means, it's very important that that person not be left alone. So stay with them until you can find somebody else to come stay with them, and then call for help. I'm going to link in the video description a whole bunch of places internationally that you can call to get help with these sorts of situations. And another thing that you can do if you're comfortable doing this, it's very simple, but it can be very powerful, is to make a contract with that person and say, okay, you know, before you leave them, before you end the conversation, say, can you promise me this? If things do get so bad that you do think about hurting yourself, you do think about carrying out this plan, can you promise me that you'll call me first, or call that crisis line first, whatever your comfort level is? Because that creates an opportunity in that moment for someone to break them out of that spell that they're in and offer some support and help them through to get through that day. All right, I know this has been heavy. I know this has been a lot. I thank you for watching this far. I think this is a really important topic. And if nothing else comes out of this video, I just wanna get people talking more. I wanna normalize us having these conversations. I wanna remove the stigma and the fear around talking about this so that we don't keep losing amazing people to conditions like ME/CFS. And now for the fifth and last thing I said that I would share is some further resources for you. So there are many different places that can help. I'm going to link some support lines in the video description. There are also online counseling subscriptions that are available. So if you are not able to go out and leave your home, like many chronically unwell people are, there are things that you can do from your home to get support. I also have a Facebook group that is focused on ME/CFS recovery. It's called ME/CFS Recovery, Support, and Inspiration. And why I love this Facebook group and what I think makes it special and powerful and unique is that it is very optimistic and recovery focused. So I know some support places can be filled with a lot of negativity, and this is a space where people come together 100%. They join this group specifically so that they can be in a space that's uplifting and they can talk about their struggles, but with the purpose of finding solutions. All right, so I want to end this video by saying to you, if you are currently in a place where things are feeling impossibly hard and hopeless, just know that you're not alone. I know that you can feel so alone in those moments, but you're not. So many of us are here, have been through it, have made it through it, and you can as well. So if you're currently struggling, it's really important that you reach out, get help, use some of these 10 things that I shared in the video to help get you through these moments and find those sources of hope. I'm gonna link 2 playlists up here. One will be full recovery stories, so many inspiring full recovery stories of people who have been severely unwell and felt hopeless themselves and fully came back. And then another one that is a expert interview playlist, which has doctors, researchers, all sorts of people who are running recovery programs and are showing all the new information and the new insights that we have to this illness that are helping us to get past it. Thank you so much for watching and for being a part of this conversation. Please leave a heart in the comments so that everyone who's watching and feels alone knows that they're not alone. And I will see you in the next video. Make me a promise on that one. And now here's a bit of Blue, my adorable little puppy, for no other reason than he's cute, and I hope that he'll bring a smile to your face.